we have released this creature in cyberspace, which is 21 million Bitcoin. Nobody knows how to stop it or kill it, and no individual could accumulate the power to. It is a Darwinian hyper-competitive creature. It is the most competitive monetary network in the world because politicians want it. Bitcoin miners, right? If you have a Bitcoin miner, you can generate $120 million a year, off of like an exahash, okay? I mean, all told, my company, MicroStrategy, has invested $3.16 billion.
3.1 billion.
Yeah, I put another 175 million of my own money. So I'm 3.3 something.
I love it.
3.35. I can't remember exactly.
I love it.
It's a lot of money. Let's start with first principles. What is inflation? Inflation is when the government sucks the energy out of the currency. When the inflation is running, the government says it's running 2%. It's not running 2% because the measure of inflation is a manufactured one. If I just measure things that don't go up in price, then inflation is low. But if I measure things that you want, like housing is up 27% year over year. The stock market is up 27% year over year. So if you wanted to buy a house or if you wanted to buy a bunch of stocks, the inflation rate's 27%. The currency is losing 27% of its value. That is 27% of your blood getting pumped out of your body. Okay, so what we had was a low inflation environment, and it tripled in March of 2020. And we went from maybe, 7-8% consistent inflation in the US to now 24. And we've been running north of 20% for the past 18 months. If you have all your money in a bank account and it's in US dollars, you're losing 15, 20, 25% of your value a year. But if it's in pesos in Argentina, you're losing like 40% of your value a year. And so in an economy like Venezuela or Nigeria, Zimbabwe, or most of Africa, that's a currency collapse, which is like you're on life support on a ventilator. There is no investment strategy or business strategy that will save you, right? You're in deep trouble. So if we go to an analogy that an athlete would understand, you run a dojo, and the government sends you a note saying, I need all of your fighters to give me a pint of blood. So everybody donates a pint of blood. And to get ready for this, I Googled this, and I found out that Google thinks it takes 4 to 8 weeks to replace your red blood cells. And you got 10 pints of blood in your body. So if you get bled 10% of your blood, then I guess you're not going to be the ideal top athlete for 4 to 8 weeks.
That's
right?
true.
And so maybe, if you had a big competition, you would not want to do that within 2 months of the competition, but you'd probably train a little bit weaker too. So that's about 10% inflation. Now, what happened if you got a memo from the government that said, we need a pint of blood from every fighter every quarter, every 12 weeks? Now you've got to like 25, 30% inflation, and now you're never really on. Now, what happens if the government sends you a note saying, well, we're going to need a pint of blood every month? Okay, so inflation is currency collapse. And currency is to the economy what blood is to the body, and value or energy is oxygen. So I'm sucking the blood out of your body. I'm sucking the oxygen out of your body. If I keep sucking the oxygen out of the room, you can't perform. Now, why Bitcoin? Well, if you put your money in a boat, the maintenance cost is 10%, the boat might sink. It's expensive. If I buy a house, I got to paint it. It might burn down. There's leakage, there's property tax. It's expensive. It's expensive to maintain. If I buy gold, well, gold is losing 2% of its value a year because gold miners keep producing more gold. So in 30 years, your gold's worth half as much as it was, and then another half, then another half. So gold is gradually losing its value, but it's very hard to move around, and nobody wants to rent your gold. Okay, at least if you buy a building, someone might rent it. If you buy a car, someone might want to use it. You might want to charter a boat, but you can't charter your gold. That's why people like property, like buildings and houses. Like, I'm going to Airbnb a second house and I'm going to get some rental income. That's the positive, but the negative is I can't carry a house on my back when I leave the country. And if I have an Airbnb in Buenos Aires, I mean, only a small number of tourists want to use that. So I've got a house. Who will give me a loan against it? Only an Argentine bank. Who will rent the house? Only an Argentine tourist. And then who will want to buy the house? Only someone that wants to live in Argentina. Okay, so that's property, but it's highly expensive to maintain. It can be impaired, it can be taxed, and I can't sell it to a Russian billionaire. So what's the best property? Gold? No, gold was property in the 19th century. A house, land, that's property in the 20th century. Crypto asset, that's property in the 21st century. Bitcoin is the apex crypto asset, the apex property of the human race. Why? It's the most secure network. It's the strongest brand. Everybody in the world knows what it is. It's engineered. It's engineered to be the most energy efficient. You know, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's all about energy efficiency. You're in a system with someone else, and the issue is how can you bring all of your energy to bear and set it up so that they can't bring their energy to bear? And you're thinking about energy and leverage. Bitcoin is engineered to allow you to bring monetary energy and leverage it and to be most efficient. And so we bought Bitcoin because it was the dominant digital monetary network. And we swapped our cash, first 250 million into Bitcoin, and it went up. And then we did a Dutch auction where we offered to buy back the stock of our shareholders if they didn't like the idea, because maybe they wouldn't like it.
That's right.
Well, we had $60 million tendered, but we had $175 million that we had after the Dutch auction, and we bought Bitcoin with that, and it went up again. And then our stock went up. And then we issued a convertible debt, about $650 million of it, and we bought Bitcoin with that, and that went up. And then our stock went up again, and so we kept buying Bitcoin, and we eventually, if you keep working for pesos, you'll be making 1 million pesos, and that'll be worth 50,000. Yeah, it'll be worth 1/20th that much in 10 years. And so you're going to lose most of your money. But if you turn around and if you were to sell equity in the business and get paid 10 million, then you buy Bitcoin with it or buy dollars with it. In 10 years, you'll have $10 million instead of 1 million or $500,000. And if you were to get debt, if you borrowed $1 million or $10 million against your business and you paid 5% interest, well, you pay the 5%, 500,000 pesos a year. You have $10 million. You buy dollars, and then 10 years from now, you're still paying 500,000 pesos a year, but your $10 million is worth $10 million, and the rest of the business is worth 500,000 pesos or something, right? It's collapsed to be worth 500. But
this is predicated on the belief that Bitcoin is going to keep going up. It's going to keep increasing in value.
So I'm an engineer. I looked at it and I said, look, electricity, fire, digital energy. I said, Bitcoin is digital energy. It's a first time in the history of the human race. I can take $1 billion of energy or electricity in Montreal, and I can store it for 100 years and spit it out in Tokyo, no power loss. And there's nothing like that. So what could be a better investment than pure digital energy? And that makes it just really compelling, right? A really amazing thing. But you got to understand the engineering of it in order to get the conviction around it.